Hello.
Hello. Great to see you.
You too.
I know you're busy, so maybe we'll just jump right in if that's okay. Um,
Sure.
I'm absolutely thrilled to be talking to Tiffany Smith, the multi-threat actress, host, web personality. Have you started singing or dancing yet?
I actually started off thinking I was going to do pop music. So I was a singer. I grew up dancing. I'm not the most, I don't love competitive team sports. So dancing was my athletics when I was younger. So yeah, I'm ready for all of that.
Right on. The world should be nervous then. But let's talk about Masters of the Universe Revelations Part 2 coming to
Yeah.
Netflix November 23rd. You play Andra, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just start by saying I really love the show. I love the continuation of the original He-Man lore. Everything's a callback. It's mostly a Valentine to fans like myself and possibly yourself. The critics kind of liked it, but the fans didn't like it so much, the first part. So I'd like to know, what was your reaction to the fans' reaction?
The thing that I love so much, and I grew up reading comic books, and I grew up, loving to the universe and He-Man. I have action figures from when I was a little kid. So I think the thing that always stands out to me is I just feel really lucky to be a part of a franchise or something like this that fans are so connected to, and I think that that's something where it's like, no matter what the property is, if you grew up loving it or you read it first and then you see it come to life, it's really hard to make every single person happy. For me though, it was like you said, it was a love letter to fans of the original. And I think the crazy part is if you go back and watch the original one and then come to ours, it, for me in particular, felt like this was the continuation. It grew up a bit, but still had all the things that I loved about the original series. And like I said, it grew. And I think that, there's, like I said, you can't always make everybody happy, but I'm so pumped to be a part of a franchise and a world that people are so committed and connected to. And like I did PowerCon this year, which was amazing, and getting to talk to all those fans in person and see people. And Griffin, who voices Orko, he and I did a panel together, and just getting to talk about our fandom, how much we love it on the stage, and then having fans come up and talk to us after was just, it was so cool and just felt really, really special, and it was there that I saw my action figure for the first time and like teared up and stuff. So it was.
That's a pretty big, I would think that's a pretty big deal to have it finally have an action figure of yourself, right?
I mean,
that's like you made it, kind of. Right?
It was mind blowing, honestly. Yeah. I knew that they were revealing some action figures at PowerCon. I didn't know that. I think I knew that the image was coming out, but I didn't know they were actually going to have the physical figure at PowerCon. And so I went over, someone came over and was like, yeah, your figure's here. I was like, what? So I went over to the booth, and my friend who was with me, she like videoed me seeing it for the first time. And I think if you grow up loving this world or loving action figures and that kind of stuff, seeing a character that I got to help bring to life as an action figure, I've already ordered myself 3 of them. I will probably have more.
Right. Yeah. All your friends' Christmas shopping is done for the next couple of years. Exactly. And Kevin Smith is kind of the master of digging into the story and the mythology of whatever he's working on and pulling out a lot of deep bench characters, which Andra is sort of a deep bench character from one of the early comic books. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about her? Can you get your...
So the thing that I loved about this character was, like you said, she was in early comics, very, very small role, but they really wanted to bring in a new character that kind of could be the audience, where it was like, if you've seen the first part, you kind of see that Andra gets excited about hearing about stuff and actually meeting the people that she's heard these stories about and stuff. So that was what was so appealing to me, that, I auditioned for the role and then got it. And it was really, I joke that I'm like, it's kind of like Barry Allen in the Justice League, where it's like, he gets excited about seeing Batman and he's like, oh my God, this is all real. So that felt like a big piece of Andra. So it was really fun for me to kind of jump into that, because that is how I feel about the world of Masters of the Universe and He-Man and stuff. So she really is, the best friend next to Teela, and you get to follow her journey along with everybody else, which I think that, when you're coming back in, it's such a cool way to bring new fans in and have the audience's eyes a part of it as well. And she is a very smart engineer. She can make cool tech. And she's strong and she's a badass. I mean, that's what I love about her as well, is that she has all these elements. And then, you know, you get to see that she does have this soft heart, that she wants to have a family. She wants to be connected with them. And I think that in part 2, you get to follow along with all of their journeys, including Andra's, and I'm excited for everybody to see where it goes.
This might be a bit of a stretch, but do you think there might be any comparison between the two characters of Andra and Meghan Markle that you recently played?
I don't know about the Andra Meghan Markle connection, but I think, I mean, there definitely is something where I love playing characters that are very like strong women, that don't hesitate saying how they feel and what they want to do and going after what they want. And I think Meghan as a person is that way, and this character is the same. I mean, that it's a stretch to say anything like that. I mean, the connection is that I've played her and her, maybe. But I feel really lucky to get to play both of those roles. But, you know, just, I love acting. I love getting to dive into characters and, you know, playing in that space. It's one of those things that I worked on a project and came off set and was just, it's like, you know, when you come back from vacation and you're kind of sad because you're like, oh, it's over and I'm back from vacation. That's how I feel when I'm done working on a project. It's just like every part of me is awake. I love getting to create in that way. And so it's just something that I hope I get to continue doing and bringing new characters to people, because I absolutely love it.
Teela and Andra have sort of a Xena and Gabrielle vibe. And though it's never specifically stated, but there are a few knowing glances shared between them. But since I have the source, I want to ask you, what is the relationship between Andra and Teela?
I'm not the writer, so I don't know. But when I went into it and I started reading the episodes and getting to know the characters, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So for me, it was Frodo and Sam, that it's this best friends relationship. And to me, it's one of those things where, you know, I love that anybody can watch the show. And if people can find a connection or feel like part of them is in the show, then it makes me so happy. So Andra and Teela too, what I think is so cool and just speaks to everyone's talent on the show is the fact that Sarah and I never met before we did all the episodes. We met before all of them, and we met after all of them were recorded. And so it was so cool to see everything come together so well, because we obviously recorded during the pandemic, so we couldn't all be in the studio together. And so I think it just totally speaks to our producers and voice director and everybody, you know, being so good at what they do to make all of those connections and relationships feel so like solid, which I loved. And then, you know, obviously, like, I think I grew up watching cartoons like this, and, you know, I'm multi-ethnic, I'm mixed. So it's not often that I got to see characters that looked like me, you know? So getting to voice a character that I think, you know, people who are my age who didn't get to see themselves on shows, or even younger, where it's like they're getting to see this character come to life on the screen, which I love so much. And that was one of the amazing parts of being at PowerCon as well. Like, we did the panel and I talked about it, and, you know, it's so special to me that I get to do that. But then having people come up and bring their daughters, or, you know, even adults coming up and being like, I love the fact that this show is, you know, bringing more representation out there. And it just feels really, really special. And I think that, you know, like I said earlier, if anyone can see a piece of themselves in the characters on this show, I think that that's really special and really important.
Was PowerCon the first time that you got to see the cast in person, the rest of the cast?
No, actually. So the first time I met some of the cast was virtually when we were doing press for part 1. Chris Wood and Sarah and I were on a Zoom for a long day, just talking about the show. So that was the first time virtually. And because of the hosting stuff that I've done, I think I had met Chris doing some press stuff for Supergirl at some point. But I'd never met Sarah. So we met virtually. And then right around the time that the airing happened, a bunch of us the show got together. So I got to meet Sarah in person there. And I'm hoping, like, if at some point in the future, you know, last year, I'm like, I would have been at Comic-Con. We all would have finally got to meet, because that happens so much with, you know, recorded animated shows like this. So fingers crossed, who knows what the future holds. But if there is more in the future, that I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to finally get to meet everybody in person.
How do you think fans will react to the second half, the wrap up of this story?
It's so hard, because I can never guess how fans are going to respond to things. But I think that for me watching it, obviously it's like the continuation of the journey. The end of part 1 was such a big cliffhanger. And Skeletor has the power right now, which is bananas. So getting to see that actually come to fruition, and where that goes, and where all of these other characters go because of that, I am so excited for people to see it, because I think it's one of those things where we talked about this when the first part came out, but it didn't register to me that, you know, Skeletor and He-Man have never actually fought. Like, they never raised fists to each other. So getting to where we are on the series now, I'm so excited for people to see where it goes. And it's one of those things too, where Powerhouse Animation they are absolutely incredible. So every time I get to see anything extra or more, or where the teasers come out, I'm blown away by what they do animation wise. So I think that people are going to be super excited about that. And, you know, I hope that people love part 2 as much as I loved making it. And I think that they will.
Yeah. I did. I got this. I got privy to see it. I really liked it. You've worked with him a little bit in the past before this project, but could you have any behind the scenes stories or some funny anecdotes about Kevin Smith?
I think that what I love so much about Kevin is that whatever he signs on to do, he puts himself in completely. And it was one of those things where I think that we all felt really excited to be a part of it, because you could tell that everyone had that same energy. Everyone was so excited and wanted to put their best into this project. And I think that, you know, Kevin being at the helm of it, along with, you know, Rob over at Mattel and just like Netflix execs as well, that it was one of those things where it's like, you could tell how excited he was, so you knew how the project was going to come together. And people were excited even more to sign on, because they knew how pumped he was. And I think the first one of the first sessions that because I came in and, you know, this is the first series that I've done, full series with a character. I've done some video games here and there, but this was, you know, a lot more episodes and getting to take a character from one place to another place. And so I came in and, you know, I was like, what do we want to talk about? Where she's going to go, what she's going to do? And he was like, Tiffany, she's like amped up. And I was like, okay. I was like, then I got to see stuff and I was like, well, thank you for saying that you think I'm like her, because she's such a badass. And I hope that I'm like her more and more every day. I'm like, I'm training, I'm working out. I'm like, I want those guns, man.
So it's fair to say he had you in mind when he was writing this role?
I don't think so. It was one of those things where when you're a voiceover actor, you know, you get auditions all the time. You never know what's coming through or what character it actually is you're auditioning for, especially for a project like this. So I auditioned just like every other voice actor in my tape, and I went through the whole audition process. And then once I came in, that was when we were having that conversation. So I don't think that unless he's keeping a secret from me, it was definitely not written with me in mind. It just worked out that, you know, I happened to be the right voice for it, which I'm so thankful for. And, you know, it's been an awesome, awesome journey, and I'm hopeful for more.
Right. I would agree with that. You were the right voice. So there's no talk of another season or another 10 episodes, or
I don't know.
Nothing can say to me right now today. Okay, I dig it. Then let me bring this plane in for a landing then real quick. I'd like to ask, when I was a child, I used to have to get up earlier than my brother so I could get the good spot on the couch and the front of the TV so I could watch my favorite cartoons on Saturday morning. But I'd have to get up even earlier than my parents to beat them to the kitchen so I could pour myself a big bowl of sugary goodness so I could get through the day. So Tiffany Smith, I'd like to know, what was your favorite bowl of Saturday morning cereal, and what was your favorite cartoons to watch?
Yeah. So cereal wise, it's a couple. Fruity Pebbles, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Those were the like toss up between the two. Sometimes Lucky Charms, but mostly because I just liked the marshmallows. But it definitely was a rare occurrence that we had super sugary cereals in the house. Because when they're there, and even now, like if I ever buy a box, I'm like, I will finish it in a day. It's not like, oh, let me have this in the cupboard for a month. It's like, no, you're like one bowl, oh, there's some milk left, let me keep pouring cereal in it.
Right just gotta get it right
exactly. Then it always happens to be just a little too much milk left, so I have to keep pouring more cereal in. So those are the cereals that I went for. And I definitely did the same thing. I would sneak downstairs and turn the TV on and make sure it was like very low volume, so my parents wouldn't. It was like Saturday mornings, you can watch a certain amount of cartoons, but not like 4 hours of them. So I would sneak downstairs and be like, I've only been watching for 20 minutes. But I watched He-Man, I watched She-Ra, I watched Gem and the Holograms, I watched X-Men, which is one of my favorites. Those were some of the main ones. And, you know, my sister and I would get in front of the TV and then do I'm Her, which you never did anything while you're watching the show as the character, but it was just like everything they did. You're like, look how cool I am. I'm doing that thing. And we made like rules where it was like, you can't claim a character song played and stuff, but right when it ended, that's when you could say, I'm that person.
Tiffany, thank you so much for sharing your infectious energy with me today. It's been a real delight. You play Andra, and part 1 is out now on Netflix of Masters of the Universe Revelations. Part 2 comes out November 23rd. What am I missing? What do you want to make sure fans know about this show?
I think it's, you know, I would suggest watching the first 5 again before you jump into the second 5. If you haven't already watched part 1, go do it right now because it's so much fun. I think one of my other favorite things about this show is getting to see families where it was, you know, dad or mom talking about, you know, I watched this when I was a kid, and now getting to watch with their kids. It's definitely not, I wouldn't say it's like a little kid show because they're, you know, how the first part ended, but it's definitely one of those shows that you can watch together and bring it from, you know, you being a fan as a kid to the family a little bit now, which I love. So definitely watch them and enjoy it the heck out of it because I enjoyed making it, and hopefully we'll get to do more. And, you know, everybody can follow me on social media. It's Tiffany_Smith. And that's kind of where I'll keep everybody posted on all the stuff that I'm working on and what's next. And there will for sure be photos once I get my action figure.
Yes. Can't wait. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for your time. Do me a favor, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you on the other side.
I will. You too. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. My pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.